Political affairs analyst Jide Ojo joins me on the news for more on this. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Did you see the verdict happening any other way than it did?
You said?
I said, did you see the verdict happening any other way than it did?
Of course I did. I knew sentiments does not win election, both at the polls and even at the tribunal. And you must do your own work very well. This is the 7th presidential election we have had since the return of civil rule in 1999. And there are certain things that are sacrosanct. Election matter is sui generis, and you also have to abide by superior court's decision. The 12.5 hours verdict of yesterday is in line with law. It does not appeal to emotions. And the lawyers of the petitioners are very well informed about what the law of election is all about. Let me say this. I knew when the Supreme Court decision in Adeleke versus Gboyega happened in Osun, that issue around uploading of election results in a timeless manner and all of that would be resolved in favor of INEC, because that issue was also canvassed by APC, and they lost. The issue around double nomination of Kashim Shettima was also, there was also a Supreme Court decision in the course of this 180 days of ventilating the Court of Appeal, and it was resolved that Kashim Shettima legally and legitimately withdrew his nomination as Borno Central candidate and was elected as a primary to serve as a first presidential candidate. Those two Supreme Court decisions definitely will impact on the outcome of this election. Then you are talking about 25% in FCT. FCT, as we heard from their lordship yesterday, does not have a special status. Those of us who are living and working here are not gold card members of Nigerian state. We are ordinary citizens, and since the APC scored 25% of more than 2/3 of Nigeria, APC had 25% in 29 states.
Okay, Mr. Ojo,
not so. The other candidates have up to that.
Mr. Ojo, I mean, most of us watched the proceedings yesterday, but there are those who say that the judges ruled out the petitions based on technicalities. Do you think this is accurate? What's your take?
There was no technicalities in this matter. See, I understand the emotions of people, and don't forget, people are entitled to their own opinion, and that's why we always encourage people to seek redress. I've been working in this area for over 20 years. I've been an election observer since 1999. I've observed the election in US, in Egypt, in Ghana, and in Uganda. So I'm very much at home with what electoral jurisprudence across the globe talked about. But I'm not boasting in my own knowledge. What is technicality? You said there are 3 laws that guide elections. One is the Constitution, then the Electoral Act, then the practice direction. The practice direction says all the witnesses you want to rely on, put them, have a written witness address, and then put them on notes and front load before the commencement of the work of the tribunal. Labour Party brought 10 people who were never front-loaded, who were never canvassed, and who were in the country available when the election tribunal started work. There was a period.
Yeah, but I think some of what you say now is it's not that the testimonies were not the truths or were not valid, but it was the technicality of not fulfilling the rules. That's why those testimonies, those witnesses were not accepted by the court, right?
But you know, the petitioners know, they have a copy of the practice direction, they know the due process that should have been followed. Election matter is sui generis. At the rate of being perceived as being an apologist of the system, I'm not a category member of any of the political parties. But like I said, I followed through with this electoral matter since 1999.
So if the law, I'm sorry I keep interjecting, Mr. Ojo. We have a very short time on the news, so I'll just try and get the meat from you, hopefully. You're saying it's not based on, there is no technicality here, everything is clear. But the PDP and the LP have both held press briefing, and they're saying that they are headed for the Supreme Court, and I mean, if they are going to the Supreme Court, it means that they're not happy with the ruling, and there may be a possibility of another ruling from the Supreme Court. If that is the case, does that change your opinion in any way?
It does not. Look, politicians will go to court irrespective. Whether an angel comes to Nigeria to conduct this election, they will still have gone to court. Look, United States of America has over 250 years of electoral democracy. And they got their independence from UK in 1779. Since then, they've been practicing democracy. Don't politicians in US go to court? Despite using technology, Donald Trump and many Republicans still believe that 2020 election was stolen in favor of Joe Biden. The same thing in Brazil. Brazil is the home of electronic machine. In fact, if we are going to buy electronic machine, we'll buy from Brazil. Brazil held an election last year in October that asked Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro supporters went on the street and said they will not allow for inauguration of Lula da Silva. It tells you that it's not peculiar to Nigeria for us to have contested elections. Politicians globally will contest elections, even where it is clear that they lost the election.
Okay, I think I'm sorry, Mr. Ojo, I keep interjecting, but we do have a very short time on the news. Well, I think you made your point, really, that it's something that has to do with the election cycle. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
My pleasure. Do have a good evening.
You too, sir.